Now. So, good evening, everyone, and how are we all this evening? Good, fabulous. Tonight we have got what I would only describe as the master of voiceover, Jonathan Kydd. Now, Jonathan has worked extensively as an actor, voiceover artist, producer, writer, filmmaker, all a man, I should say, of many, many hats. His early appearances started in a wonderful, wonderful British film in the early 60s, The Iron Maiden. If you haven't seen it, I recommend doing so. He's gone on to do a lot of television appearances, worked for Radio 4, over 50 visual ads on television, a CV of, wait for it, over 12,000 voiceovers. The list's endless. He's done cartoon voiceovers, including Paddington Bear, one of my favourites, to voicing Big Ears and Fuse the Robot in Noddy Toyland Detective. He's also written musicals, that's including a fabulous musical which I auditioned for, Brilliant Leno, which was about the musical entertainer Dan Leno. I could keep going. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things, and we're not going to get all through all of it this evening, but we'll try and cover as much as we possibly can. And there will be a Q&A afterwards. So, without further ado, please give a big, warm welcome to the man himself, Mr. Thank you very much.
No, please.
Good.
No.
The flowers.
I'm not worthy. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mr. Kydd, and how are you?
Well, I'm here in my Hawaiian hidey hole.
You are. Yes. And is it sunny over there?
Around the country.
Is it sunny over there?
No. Of course it is.
You've got to believe, absolutely.
Believe. I'm actually in Shepherd's Bush. Good old Shepherd's Bush. How are the mighty fallen? And it's raining. It's raining outside.
Well, there we are. So, Jonathan, where do we begin?
Let's begin in a small hospital in a maternity ward in Chiswick.
Right. Okay. Over to you.
I took 2 days to come out.
Right.
I didn't want to come out, and my mother suffered terribly as a consequence and never got over it. Let's begin. What should we talk about? My dad was a very well-known actor. I always presumed I'd end up in the business. I was very naive. I had no idea what the business was about. And during the best period that I'd like to have been advised, he got emphysema, and because he'd smoked 80 a day, and that was an era where everybody smoked hugely. And he actually, we were in a small flat in Kensington we were renting. And what I love about it was that my dad made over 280 films and thousands of tellies. And at the moment, he's on Talking Pictures TV all the time, about 9 times a week in films. And it's been a journey of discovery for me, because obviously I didn't see these films that he did in that period of his life, because I wasn't alive. And then I was little, and I didn't care much about his career. I was more interested in playing football and playing cricket. And so to actually see 20 years of his career, I understand why he worked so much. And he made 116 films between 1946 and 1952. And lots of these were two lines in a film, but they were 2 lines that he got right immediately. It was absolutely professional, absolutely on the ball. And he gave something to each part that he did. He gave an energy. You can see it in all the performances. And some of them, I mean, he's a little part, Tale of Two Cities, Dickens, Dirk Bogarde, and Cecil Parker playing the leads. He's playing the coachman. Somebody comes up behind him on the coach. He gets off with a blunderbuss. He's with an actor called Michael Brennan. 2 great faces, but also he's got an attitude. He's straight in there. You can see it from his performance that, you know, he knows exactly what he's doing. Done it. They gave him a huge close-up as a consequence, 2 big close-ups, does the scene. The director's absolutely pleased with what he's done it as quickly as possible. And he's off. It's 2 days, possibly 2 days filming. You'll go on to another film. Now, that was an era where you did that. It's what you could do. And there was a repertory company of people doing that. But then he'd get bigger parts in B pictures and whatever. Anyway, I came along, and by then in 1963, he was in a television series called Crane. You imagine there are only two channels, 20 million people watching him, mobbed in the street, playing the second lead. And he then did a kids thing called Orlando, which was a spin-off. Now, it just so happened, I'll digress slightly, but this was my background. Both my parents weren't very well off. My father had been a prisoner of war for 5 years. And the big thing about it, a different era, was improvement. You tried to improve yourself. So I got sent to a public school. That's why I speak like this, darling. But having said that, my mother came from Luton. She spoke like that, my mum. She was like that. But she decided that she wasn't going to speak like that. She did a RADA course. And my mother started speaking to me like that. And she said things like, I'm going to go off. And I used to say to her, Mother, it's off, isn't it? No, darling, where I learned, it's off. But she was sufficiently, how can I put it, self-aware to realize that this was a ridiculous accent. So she said normal accent. My dad, similarly, had a bit in my ears all the time. He was from Belfast, but he'd been educated at Dunstable Grammar. And so he had a voice like me. If we went round to the family, his family was in Chiswick, he all spoke like that there. Everybody was that all the way through it. That was their accent there. And so I was listening to that all the time. And there was a posh Belfast accent as well. Couldn't believe it. My uncle, Jack, my great uncle, he'd been a dresser on the stage and had been, I think, Max Wall, the comics dresser. So consequently was a snob about theatre and performance and hated my father in everything. I don't think you're very good. I don't think you're very good at all, Sam used to say. And this is apparently a posh Belfast accent, but it was like that. Then he'd have my grandmother, who at 60 decided to be old because she was the head of the family. There are about 6 of them in this house in Chiswick. And she'd take a little old lady. I remember thinking, what? She's 60. Surely you don't behave like that at 60. Anyway, I digress. This is my family growing up. My mother was a table tennis international. She was a sportswoman and an advertiser, one of the first advertising women. And her brother hated her for sending me to public school because they were all communists. And he thought that it sold out, despite my brother playing football for Crystal Palace. I'm a mad football fan. I'm afraid I'm a Chelsea fan for everybody who doesn't like it, but that's because my dad was a Chelsea fan and we lived down the road. And he was a Crystal Palace fan, a Crystal Palace player and a songwriter. And I write songs as well. And we had so much in common. He decided not to speak to me. This is the madness of the kind of family, because I'd been sent to public school because they were all communists in the 30s. Anyway, this is the kind of background I'm living in. So there's a kind of inevitability to becoming an actor. But I was watching my dad playing all these parts. My dad had this great ability to do both comedy and straight stuff with a great sincerity. And he'd been a prisoner of war for 5 years, and it had marked him. And he was a very sympathetic actor. And you could see it in his performances because he'd seen shit. He'd almost died. They didn't know whether they were going to be living. They didn't know whether they were going to be dying. It was all unknown. They were being treated dreadfully by the guards, by everybody there. And he escaped towards the end of the war via Russia and got back. And bizarrely, sorry if I'm waffling madly, but this is the kind of environment I was in. But I found in my mother's loft an autobiography that he wrote. It was 250 pages long, which I am attempting in this lockdown to make into a proper book, because his stories, some of the stories in it are fantastic, but he wrote it in 1973 and he doesn't want to offend anybody. So he's absolutely lovely about everybody. Now, the dilemma I've got is I've got all his letters. I've got scripts with things he's written on the back of. Well, he'll say something about, for example, he was doing this thing with Orlando, which was this series he was in. They made 76 episodes. And he writes a little bit of kind of sort of, we wanted to do a series at 7 o'clock because 8 million people were watching it. And actually, this is a crap story. I won't tell this one. This is too complicated. This is to do with, these are power trips. He writes things like, work with Harry Seacombe. We did a great sketch together. Full stop. That's it. That's it, he says in the book. Well, and I want to, if he was alive, I'd say, what the fuck was the sketch, Father?
Yes.
I've got to put that in the book. Come on. Luckily, I've got his joke book. So I look, and he's written some of the sketches in. So I'm transcribing it. But this book, which was 250 pages long, is now 750 pages long. So I'm going to have to re-edit it. But anyway, the consequence of all of this is I'm analysing his films to buggery, and he's really good. This is one of the reasons why. And also, there's another tip for all of us. He was lovely. He was a sweet guy, even if he didn't get on with people. He didn't confront. He didn't. He just. You stand up for yourself, obviously, but he was absolutely charming, friendly, interested in everybody. So as a consequence, I'd give that as an enormous tip to anybody in the business. If you get work, just don't have an attitude. Don't be a sycophant, but at the same time, and I have to say, it's something you passed on to me. I mean, the reason also that I've done so many voiceovers is because I don't ever confront anybody. And let me tell you, the amount of shit you get doing voiceovers from people on power trips is absolutely amazing. It's non-stop. It's people just because they've got their little moment of power and they want to tell you how to do it. And they might tell you how to do it with the wrong stress, with the wrong, I don't know, they'll change the script. They know you're saying that completely wrongly. No, I don't want you to say it like that or whatever. And you can't go, actually, I do say it like that. You just go, okay. My phrase is always, oh, okay, then no problem. Always for everything. And that way you don't create any stress in the environment.
Do you find, Jonathan, that there are some directors that will let you, just leave you to do your own thing?
Well, I think if you've got off your reputation, if they know you're going to do it and you've been doing it for some time, but in some instances, there are people that it doesn't make any difference. They want to stamp their authority on it.
Right.
I mean, I remember doing bizarre situations where you're in a studio and there are 11 people behind the glass. They've got the producer, there's somebody from the agency's friend, somebody who's come in there for a jolly, the client's assistant, the client, two work experience people. It just fills up. And I remember doing a Daily Telegraph ad, and I had to go sport with a Daily Telegraph. Simple as that. Something this Sunday, Thursday, sport with a Daily Telegraph. Downward inflection, Daily Telegraph. And this little voice at the back said, after take 2, take 3, anybody got me to say? The producer said, could you do it could he go up at the end? Could he just go up at the end? And so they said, oh, good idea. Everybody, yes, got to go up at the end. Sport, the Daily Telegraph. It doesn't make, I mean, it's just bollocks, isn't it? But you don't say, I'm not going to say that. How dare you? You go, yeah, okay then. Yeah, no problem. And so you go, sport with the Daily Telegraph. And I suppose you could make it work if you wanted to put your eyebrows up. Yeah, go, Daily Telegraph. But that's it. Well, that's another direction you get given. Could you make it a bit happier? I always just go, I'll fix that position. That makes me go a bit happier. But in this instance, then the producer came in and said, sorry about this, we'll use take 2. And I heard it on the radio the following day, and it was sport with the Daily Telegraph, because that's the proper read. But yes, they have to go through this motion of somebody saying something to you to feel important within the environment. Mm-hmm. You've got lots of people who don't say anything. Somebody will say to them, oh, you were quiet today, weren't you? So they feel they have to justify it by saying something.
Yes.
I've in fact made a short about an appalling voiceover session, which is on my website, which is on YouTube, which is just called Aha, which is the worst possible title I could have given it, with 3 A's and 2 R's, because it's about a pirate session. And it's based on an absolutely real session that I had, where somebody said, we did 7 takes and I had to go, I was playing a pirate. It was a piratical voice. Aha, get on down to something, Williams boat center, and he'll get you the right boat, and splice the main brace, Jolly Roger, aha, aha, like that. That was the ad. And that really was the ad. It was a boat place in Cornwall. And this bloke who I hadn't seen at all said, excuse me, can we go again? I'm finding it all a little bit piratical, was the word he used. Too piratical. Could he make the aha into something less aggressive? Because it's very pirate, very aggressive. Can we do something else, please? All right. So I had to go. I did 32 takes of going, aha, no, aha, no. Aha! No, oh, far too much. No. I kid you not, over and over and over. And he chose one when I'd gone, just like that. And he went, yeah, that's the one, yeah. And they inserted those in. And I thought, this has been possibly the most stupid session I've ever done. Once again, I didn't say, excuse me, you're all wankers, fuck off. I just said, great, lovely to work with you, really enjoyable. Thanks very much indeed. Yes. And thinking of the money. And I made a film of it, and it's up on my website. It's called, and it actually won some awards to my bemusement. I mean, I don't get that whole process of short films. I mean, probably you're making shorts and whatever, but what seems to happen is you put money into the festival people's hands. They show it somewhere, and nothing ever happens with it. So nothing happened. I won I won an award in America. I won a couple of other awards, some Oxford Film Festival. I had no idea what it was, and was Critics' Choice and something else, very meaningless. And I won Mid-Ulster. I won that as well, and I put that up as a quote. But it got me no work at all, and nothing ever happened with it. And I think what you're supposed to do is you have a decent, you've got a decent short. Is you're supposed to then advertise it and try and make a feature, which I should have done. I look back now, it's 15 years ago I made that. I look back now and I made a mistake. I should have made a feature. But once again, it's, you've got to get all the money together to make your own work.
Can we talk a little bit about some of your radio work, please?
Well, radio work. Oh,
yes. I mean, he started, I've got here, in 1981, Best of the Fringe, awful.
Yeah. Well, I was the Perrier Award runner-up in 1981 at Edinburgh. Right. I mean, I love the whole idea of making your own work if you can do it.
Yes.
Get out there and do your own stuff. It's a very passive world we inhabit as actors. And your agent, remember my agent always saying, it's very quiet. I kept thinking, it's bollocks. I can write my own stuff and I'll go and do something. But this was, unfortunately, we lost out to, as you'd expect, the Cambridge Footlights, which was Emma Thompson and Hugh Laurie and Stephen Fry. And they won it that year. And it was, and I watched it and I thought, it's not very funny. Ours is funnier, but then I wouldn't I? So, we were three of us and we did a series of sketches. And I would always say, if you can get something, I mean, Edinburgh then was a huge, it wasn't a stand-up world. This is 1981. It was more a sketch show, but and now that sketches are back in Edinburgh, if we ever get back to theatre again, I would just try and do what you can, get theatre companies together with your mates, try and make work. Because you're doing something, it gives you a profile. It means that you can then send something to a casting director. It means that you're not waiting to be picked up. I just think that, and we can get onto this about how to get a voiceover agent, which I think is pretty important, or go the other route, which is to go onto websites, and we can talk about that at length. I'm quite informed about that. So
that would be great,
obviously. But no, we started off in 81. Yeah, that was Best of the Fringe. We ended up on Best of the Fringe, obviously, because that was a show and I'd only just started acting then. I mean, I acted when I was 6, and then I decided that I went up for about 3 different films. I went up for 3 Lives of Thomasina, I remember, which was a Disney film about cats, and of course I was allergic to cats. So at the film test, screen test, I just kept sneezing, so that was the end of that one. And then I went up for a Tony Hancock film, and what was that? The Punch and Judy Man. And I rather foolishly, he asked me whether or not I was interested in Punch and Judy. And there was a series at the time called Supercar, which was a precursor to Thunderbirds. And I said, no, I don't like Punch and Judy. I love Thunderbirds. And I got my little Thunderbirds wallet out and showed it to him with a supercar in it. I told him my supercar wallet and showed it to him. And he went, yes, but you're supposed to be up here to discuss Punch and Judy. And I said, I'm not very fond of Punch and Judy. I was about 8, that was that was the end of that one. And then my mother decided possibly this wasn't the world that I should be going into at that stage. So
here you are now,
back with my schooling. But then and then I went and did I did a drama degree at French and drama degree at Hull University when there weren't many universities doing drama.
Right.
So I'm annoyingly informed about theatre and theatre writers, and of course, and that has actually helped me in terms of trying to write plays and which I've had a go at. I've never had any success writing them, but it hasn't stopped me from doing it. I've done 4 musicals, and I've been a producer as well. But that's just been because it's like having a go. It's so easy to be passive. If you could possibly have a go at doing something. And I've been to Edinburgh about 7 times writing shows, and some of them have been successful, like the 1981 one was successful. Some of them have fallen apart. I like singing, so I've got bands and been in silly bands. But in that instance, 81, what appeared to happen as well at that time was Edinburgh always seemed to be, if you were in something there, you would then get invited to do radio. It's like it's a showcase. Every single time I've done Edinburgh, I've ended up doing Radio 4 stuff, because it's like you're a player, you're involved. and I've been fortunate. Nearly all the stuff I've done has been based on sort of sketch stuff and comedy, because you save them money by playing different characters, obviously. But at the same time, that's what they want. They want comedy characters they want people to play comedy.
Moving on to slightly further along to 1989 to 93, Radio 4 series, An Actor's Life for Me. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
No, I've forgotten completely all about it. It's John Gordon Sinclair. That's all I remember about it.
Okay, right, fair enough.
I can't remember. I really seriously can't remember. I played about 4 different characters, and I have no memory at all. Right. Other than, I tell you why I've wiped it out, because they made a TV series of it and I wasn't in it. And they didn't choose any of the cast. So I've wiped it deliberately, I think, somehow.
Okay, right. Something that I find quite interesting, and I love Sherlock Holmes, which they opened...
Yes, that's another one you've mentioned I have no memory of whatsoever. In fact, that was pointed out to me the other day on Facebook. Somebody said, I've just listened to Radio 6 Extra, and you were in Sherlock Holmes. And I said, I don't think I was. And he said, yes, you were in the cast. It was you. You played 3 characters. I said, I have no memory of that whatsoever. So...
All right, let's try this one then.
Just see if you can find another one. I can't remember.
I'm sure I'll get Let Them Eat Cake from...
yes, bizarrely. Now, that was at the Golders Green Hippodrome.
Right.
It was, I remember I did a warm-up. Bizarre efforts of being a stand-up comedian and failing miserably. I did a warm-up for the audience. I don't know why I did, but it was what you call it, a big musical, wasn't it? Let Them Eat Cake, a huge musical.
I thought it was a series on TV, wasn't there? I think.
No. This was a musical, Let Them Eat Cake. It was, and Dennis Quilley was in it,
right?
Who was a big actor, and I had about 3 different American parts.
Hello.
And is somebody speaking? Hello.
Could you mute, please, if you're not on mute?
Guys, is this okay? Is this boring? I could get on to other things.
No, not at all. No, it's great.
All right. Good.
Okay. Was there anything else you wanted to say about Let Them Eat Cake, or is...
No. Other than Dennis Quilley was nasty man.
Okay, fair enough.
Remember that stayed in my mind. He actually pointed out. I pointed out I was too clever by half. I said, Dennis, you've got a joke there that is actually a visual gag, and we're on radio. Do you think you could change it? I had a line with him. Could you change it? Because if I say something, we may get a laugh. This, I have to say, has been my downfall most of my career on stage, is saying to directors, it'll be quite funny if we did this. And directors would say, could you shut up, please?
Really?
Frequently to me. Yeah, because you're interfering with their vision. You're undermining them. You're showing them that they haven't thought about the scene enough. I was in the National Youth Theatre. I forgot to mention that. I was in the National Youth Theatre, and I remember that happening as well in the National Youth Theatre. I remember being told, Jonathan, could you just shut the fuck up and stand on the stage? I remember being told that by a director. But you get used to that kind of thing, really. But it's an annoying thing of being able to. If you're in a comedy, I've always felt the idea of a comedy was that everybody had to laugh in the audience. So always looking out for moments, particularly what the playwright meant. If the playwright has written something, lots of gags are in rules of 3. So you just go, there's the first one, there's the second one. We're not playing the third one. If we play the third one, we'll get a laugh. Yes. So I would frequently say, and I suppose this is also having a father who's an actor who's in comedy, and he'd say things to me watching television. Oh, they've missed the joke. He'd say that. Or another thing he used to say, we'd watch television and he'd say, oh, David Tomlinson, wonderful, wonderful man. Love him. So I had a whole list of people in my mind that if I ever met, I was to say my father loved working with. And I've managed to achieve that quite a lot, actually.
Yes.
But particularly with jokes, joke. So I go in armed saying, there's a joke here. People just don't want to know frequently. But too interfering, as actors, it's a very fine line you're treading, I find. Anyway, I've digressed.
Comedy is a very hard part of the industry. You've got to have that sort of there, haven't you, in the first place, comedy, to really get it right. And it is a very hard part of acting, would you say?
Well, it's like anything. I think you need to be absolutely on top of everything, particularly in theatre. It's completely on top of your lines, particularly on top of everything, and on top of to such an extent that everybody else will trust you. It's a huge trust thing as well going on.
Of course.
In the business.
Okay, I'm going to move to 2007 to 2012, and I'm very intrigued to hear about a series.
Hang on, you've missed out Dahlem for Pizza.
Oh, have I? Oh, well, go on. Tell us about Dial M for Pizza then. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was very funny. Robert Bathurst, Brenda Blethyn. What we did? 18 episodes, Radio 4, written by Ian Brown, James Hendry, who are still writing now. They've got something on at the moment. Big sketch show. Robert Bathurst, big star now. He wasn't then. Brenda Blethyn wasn't a star then, big star now. Mike Grady, Last of the Summer Wine. Worth looking up on Twitter and following. Sweet guy. He's about 72. Huge experience and lovely, approachable, accessible chap. If you ever want to discuss stuff on Twitter, Grady Says, he comes at Grady Says. Who else in that? Just masses of sketches. Just joyous cast, joyous setup. Just brilliant. And it's that thing of when you get involved in stuff that is just fantastic. It's yes, guys, if you're doing something that works, it's just great.
Right. Okay, so now please can we move on to the castle, which you did?
Oh, the castle. Yeah, that was fantastic as well.
Yeah,
what fantastic writing. My goodness me. I've forgotten the guy who wrote it.
All I have is the names of the characters, Duncan and Thomas.
Yeah, I played Duncan and Thomas in that. Yeah. Yes, Duncan was terribly like that all the way through. Oh my goodness, that was his character. He was gay and always there was lots of double entendre going on. But at the same time, I then played the inventor in it as well, and he was like that. So he got brought off in there. So that was fun. But we played lots of other characters. Well, it was one of those things. There were the two main. It had James Fleet in it. It was set in a medieval castle.
Right.
It was and lots of ancient, lots of modern medieval gags, and they said the usual shit that it would end up on television, and it never did. Something else came up, and Ingrid Oliver was in it, who was in Doctor Who, playing some character I can't remember. Who else was in it? The brilliant. So brilliant, I've forgotten his name. The brilliant Lewis MacLeod, who's on Dead Ringers, I think, at the moment, and plays does a fantastic President Trump. He was in it as well. Yeah, a brilliant cast. What the interesting thing about Radio 4 comedy like that is that you get given the script in the morning. You do a read through of it. You do a run through. You do a run through on mic. And then you're on stage in front of the audience, and you've never seen the script before.
Wow, you've really got to be on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah. But there are people who do that. You can do that. There are actors I don't know whether it's innate or whether they've honed their performances. But it's a sight reading thing and a timing thing. But they are the very fact that obviously you're driven by the fact the audience is there, and and that gives you a buzz. But the ability to time stuff with that short space. I mean, I'm afraid voiceovers are the same in studios. You get given the script. You've never seen the script before in your life. You never get that. I remember working with an actor, quite well-known actor, who said, I can't do it. I've only just been given the script. What am I supposed to do? I said, well, you just read it. We read it together. But I want to take it away. I said, well, you can't take it away. You've got to make a choice. Make a choice now. Make a choice you've got to do with something. Okay. And he did, and his legs started shaking under the desk with me. And I said, come on, mate, come on. And he was a star. I'm thinking, oh God, I'm a jobbing voiceover here. And it's a star, but he said, I've never done a voiceover before. And I wanted to say, well, fucking apparent, mate. But, but he was, we did it in the end, about take 15 or something. So,
oh my goodness.
Where were we? What are you asking me now about? What have we missed out?
What about cabin pressure now playing an audience?
Oh yeah. I did a cameo on that. Same, but that's because the producer on Cabin Pressure had been the producer on Dial M for Pizza. You know how it works if you work.
Pass it on.
They get you in. Yeah, but I played. Who was it? Was in it? Old Fish Face. God, I'm terrible with names, isn't it? What's the great star? What's his name? Cumberbatch. Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yes.
What I have to say was absolutely lovely.
Yes.
Lovely bloke. Oh, no side to nothing. Really interested. There's that terrible thing when you go into something and you've never been in, they don't know your work, and they're looking at you at the read through. They're just looking to say, is he going to deliver? He's got funny lines. Is he going to be any good? And the pressure then is just, Roger Allen was involved in it as well. And Roger Allen just said, I remember looking me up and down, but I had a piece of information that made me okay with Roger Allen. I said, "You've slept with my girlfriend, Roger, at the RSC." And he went, "What? Oh. So that seemed to, which he had done about 15 years previously. And so that sort of quietened him down. But everybody else was looking. And Benedict, after the read through, came up to me and said, "That was really well done, because that's really pressurized. Well done. You were very funny." What, you'd think, you think, this bloke's, he was a star then. He'd been doing Cabin Pressure for several years since the beginning, and he got bigger and bigger as a star. And he was doing Sherlock at the time when there were masses of Japanese women outside the room, which was the drill hall where we were doing it, who were all they'd come over especially, or they were students, and they were absolutely in love with Sherlock, and they just stood there all day waiting for him to come out. Yes. And he'd come out and give them an autograph, and they would go, go back in again. And he'd come back in again. But no, that kind of thing is absolutely lovely. If another actor, and then can't remember her name, the woman in it as well, she did the same, came up and said, "Well done, very, really good." And at the end of it, they just those kind of things are very rewarding when they happen.
Yes, you don't forget things like that, do you?
Oh, never ever. Never. Well, I forget their names, but
apart from that, tell us about the Hal Cruttenden show.
Sweet guy. I went to the same school as him. Not that he got me in for that reason. They got me in from, I played his dad. I played about 6 characters, decent scripts. It was for a production company that I thought, perhaps I'll work for them again. I've never worked for them again.
No.
So that's the business. You work for somebody, you do good work, you do your best, and you think, oh, that'll set something off. Doesn't happen for whatever reason. I don't know.
You've got to move on, haven't you? This sort of on to things. Something somewhat more, I would say, somber, but of a great interest to me. If I said to you 10 Rillington Place, does that mean something to you?
Well, my dad was in that film in 1969 with Richard Attenborough, and then coincidentally, there I am playing just recently playing the barristers in the trial of Timothy Evans, which was on Radio 4.
Yes.
And it was a bizarre situation because I was playing this one barrister, and I thought, I've got a terrible thing to say, but as an actor, you think in terms of what would be easier for this, rather than going, let's find a character for this man. I'll admit it. I just go, I could do that voice, couldn't I? I could do my barrister voice because I've got that one. That's pretty easy. I could do that one. So it's like going in and thinking, yeah, I might get away with that, which is being slightly lazy. But at the same time, you don't want to create a terrible character that you go, oh, fuck, I've forgotten it when you're halfway through, So to be able to do people like that, as I said, characters like that are really quite simple to do for me. Or even slightly up there, they're slightly caricatured, but you can make them realer if you, because if you think of it, most people this is the 1950s anyway. Yeah. So in fact, lots of people in the 1950s, they spoke like that anyway. So, and they were being absolutely real. So if you could actually get away with playing a character like that. And so I played that character like that, decided I'd use that voice. I played him all the way through. And then the producer came up and said, the guy playing the other barrister hasn't turned up. He said, do you think you could play the other barrister? I went, oh, fuck. Okay, yeah. All right. I'll have a go. I'll play the other barrister. So I made him, just pitched him terribly down there. And they seem to be quite happy with that. So I'm actually, in fact, in this Radio 4, the drama doc about the life of Timothy Evans and 10 Rillington Place, I'm playing both barristers.
Yes.
But it wasn't planned. Once again, I've never seen the script that way. I've only been given I hate this word sides. I'm afraid I'm too English. The script, I've been given it, at the time. So
of course,
so much of it is. I have to say, so much of it is sight reading. I didn't realize how lucky I was to be able to be a decent sight reader. So, and I would say to anybody, if you're thinking of getting into these environments, if you can actually improve your sight reading, it really puts you in good stead.
Familiarizing yourself with the script.
Well, we're not even there, no. So you can familiarize yourself with anything you're given, anything.
Yes.
You read it immediately, but also it instills confidence. You go along to auditions, you read something, you may never have seen it before. Because stars can get away with. I remember going to various read-throughs after having been cast and discovering that that several people who were the leads couldn't actually read. But it didn't matter because you knew that they'd be performing it excellently when the time came because they had a rehearsal period. But the world I've been inhabiting so much the last 30 years has been one of instant. It's an instant thing. They give you there's a script, read it and do it.
Yeah,
it's that, And the stuff that I've made myself, I've made sure that I'm reading quite a lot of it. I like doing that. The stuff that I shoot, my little films, because that way you don't have to learn it. I find learning, I don't know about you, I find learning lines absolutely impossible. I'm not one of those people.
I know.
So I had a girlfriend once, completely photographic memory. It was so depressing. She'd go, haven't you learned that yet? And did she learn it? She was in Hollyoaks. She'd learn it in the car on the way driving up from London to Liverpool. She'd learn a huge scene. Oh God.
Envy. Absolutely.
I'm hours and hours learning lines.
Absolutely. Right, moving on to a couple of things here. The Likely Dads. Now, is that...
Likely Dads. So yeah, that's we're going very current, aren't we? These are all very current.
Yes, I've gone through.
I feel we've missed out huge elements of my vague successes in the past. But
I'm going to move on to.
Are we going to go back upon myself? Are we?
We might.
We might. We might.
I'm going to go on to. I want to talk about a lot of your voiceovers and your game.
Oh, okay, we're going to that. Likely Dads is just. It's a kind of group of 5 people talking about their children and they're older blokes. And I'm ancient, and I had a daughter 11 years ago. So it was about me talking about dealing with the fact that I'm. I played tag and I tear my hamstring. It's that kind of thing. It was
right.
Okay.
So let's
fall over I remember falling over with my daughter. I tripped chasing her and was taken to hospital with an enormous gash in my head. And I remember my daughter come out to me and saying, "Dad, you're going to get up?" Because she speaks a bit like that, obviously, because she's my daughter. And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm feeling a bit ill." "What are you doing down there?" I said, "I banged my head. Look, I've got this." And then she ran off and started carrying on playing in the playground. So, and a member of the public allowed me to use their phone to phone for an ambulance. Anyway, but it's
right. So, Jonathan, voiceover in your games, some of the wonderful. I mean, there's an absolute array of things
I've
here.
I've forgotten most of them, I tell you.
Right. Well,
I haven't put them down. I've done about 60 games, but they're not all down there at the moment.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm going to start off with, if you can, I'm sure you'll remember it, Battlefield in 1998.
No memory.
Okay.
All I remember is that I'd have played somebody who said, "Quick, get him! No, come on, yeah, put it, come on!" It'll be one of those. That's what they tend to do. There's lots of that. I can remember there are trolls. If I'm playing a troll in something, that's quite good because you have to. They give you broadswords a lot. Right. They say, you've got to come and go. I did Assassin's Creed Syndicate a couple of years ago, and I had to get killed a lot. Right. And you have to get killed. It's interesting when you're doing it. They'll give you a kind of sketch of the characters, and you've got to do them all at different speeds because you're playing different. So somebody coming in and whistling. Hello. You come in at different speeds. Yeah. So it'll be somebody gets. They said it was Jack the Ripper. Was this? They say, right, Jack the Ripper. He sees you. He slashes you across. In fact, it was an American woman down the line from Canada. "Jonathan, you're very good at death, apparently." "Oh, thank you very much. What we'd like you to do is, so the Ripper, he rips your Achilles, a hamstring, and you fall forward. Then he pins you with a dagger, and then he cuts your throat." And I was thinking, why didn't he just kill them immediately? But anyway, this is the way it's happening. Okay, so you have to do 3 noises. So you have to go, yeah, and then go, "Oh God," and then it's Now, I have no idea why I can make those noises. I don't know why. Maybe I can, but then they'll go, "Jonathan, that's great. Could you die a bit more slowly, please?" "Okay, no, yeah, okay." So it'd be, "That's great. Can you do that, but a lot quicker?" "Oh, okay." Then the pictures come out, so it'd have to be the same thing. And then they're happy with that, So that's that thing. But whether that's years of watching cartoons, I don't know. I have no idea how I'm able to do that at all. It's just something. And I always think this is hugely over the top, and they always go, "No, that's great." "Oh, thank you." But the other thing is also, heavy swords, completely exhausting. Real, we're not getting the impression you've got a huge battle axe. "Oh, all right, Jesus God, all right, here we go." you know, and it's always sweet. No, swing it more. And now you've been impaled. So it's huge, massive, big stuff that they require. And I'm already sweaty now from doing that. And imagine you've got to do that. You've been killed. You're 15 different people being killed, or 15 different people with a broadsword. Bloody hell.
Let's move on to Harry Potter. Let's move on to
Harry Potter. Oh, yeah.
Tell us all about your characters in Harry Potter's movies, please.
They wanted me to. I auditioned for Hagrid. I auditioned for Robbie Coltrane.
Right.
And of course, Robbie Coltrane's about sort of feel like that, isn't it? It's that kind of voice. But at the same time, he was playing Hagrid. He was supposed to speak like that, wasn't he? Because he's from the West Country, so it's supposed to be that kind of guy. So the kind of sort of voice, like, no. When I listened to it, and I thought, oh God, I don't know how to do this. So I sort of chose a kind of West Country. I don't know, probably somebody from the West Country would say, oh, that's not West Country. I'd put, no. It was a game, so I just went for it. They didn't want to get Robbie Coltrane because he was too expensive, so they got me to have a go at it, and they liked it, to my bemusement, and I got the job. And they said, in the meantime, can you play? This is the very first one. Can you play any other characters? I said, well, I can do. I think one of them was Mr. Fentable or something. Some of the one of the other teachers or something. It was just terribly like that. There was a kind of voice. I did that, and they liked that one. And then there was a variety of portraits as well, and one other teacher. Oh, that's right. And Peeves the Ghost in the very first one. He was a bit like that. I gave him that voice. Potter, where are you? Woohoo! Potter, where are you? And they like that one as well. I'm always taken aback when they like what you do. You keep to the order, they go, "Oh, we like that. Oh, okay, we'll do that." So, and I was actually asked to do that as a kind of party piece at places where they'd go, "Oh," I'd go to a party, they'd say, "Oh, you do Peeves the Ghost, don't you?" Somebody would say, and I'd go, "Yes, I do that." My son loves that character. Go up to my son and do that character. Go on. But go up behind him and scare him, do it like that. I went, okay. I remember once going up, and I went up behind this boy was called, I think, David or something. So I went up and went, "David, where are you? David, where are you?" And the poor boy screamed and hid under the table and had to be coaxed out with sandwiches and something. Lay there for an hour, completely traumatized. So, and from there, to my bemusement, they then went on every year doing the same franchise. They did more and more. Each film had a game for it, and I played more and more characters. My favorite line from that was I played a Death Eater in that, and my favorite line was, "Potter, put down your wand." That was my favorite line. So that was, once you've got the gig and they're happy with it. I mean, there were terrible money problems. They tried to. Whoever it was, EA made so much money from it from the first one. They naturally then tried to pay all the actors a quarter of what they'd earned for the second one, which of course made no sense, but was typical of this world. And it's what's happening with games now. They're trying to everybody's undercutting everybody else. In fact, because of lockdown as well, we'll get onto this. The whole thing is becoming absolutely weird, bizarre.
It's crazy.
The whole business is being undercut by members of the public being asked to have a go at stuff in a way that hasn't been the case, which they always have a go at that. But
of course. So
are we doing all right? You're all happy so far? I'm happy to go on to other stuff.
Having a good time. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Brilliant. So you haven't gone off yet, Jonathan. So that's great.
No. I know, but I'm just like a scattergun. I'm all over the place.
No, not at all. It's great.
And you've missed out some of the stuff I've done. I've done some decent telly as well. You've missed that out. I did Chambers. I did Chambers, which was on. Did 2 series of that, and I played a bloke like that. I played a Cockney spiv in that. And
what about One Foot in the Grave?
Yeah, I played. Fair enough. I played I have to say, Richard Wilson was absolutely lovely. Another lovely actor. I do love working with actors who are stars, who are sweet and charming. It's such a delight. Yeah, because some of them are completely up their backsides, I tell you. But some of them are I don't know, you don't go, I just go in and accept whatever it is. But I mean, the weird thing I've always had is doing voiceovers. You work with somebody very well known doing voiceovers, and you've got on well with them. Then you do a telly with them, and you're not playing a huge part, and they're your mate. And other actors look at you, look you up and down. Why does he know him? He's only got 2 scenes. Why does he know the star? You know, there's a kind of, you know, hierarchy goes on, but it's the world, it's life. You know,
Yeah.
I played a stall holder, a lovely little scene with Richard Wilson.
Okay.
I've still got it on my website just because it's funny, because the guy who wrote it, David Rennick, was a fantastic writer, brilliant comedy writer. And
Yes.
he gave, you know, small parts, you had little good lines, you had funny stuff. You got to make them work, you know, but it was easy, a lovely little scene with them. Then I was Chippy Joe, the wonderful scene with he's lost his voice and the door falls down and crushes his sandwiches. If you ever get to see any repeats, he's great. Richard Wilson gets a laugh just by going,
Yes,
yes. Sandwiches.
How did you get on with Annette Crosby?
I didn't have a scene with her.
You didn't?
No, it's a frequently the case. You know, you can be in films and stuff with her, but she was with rehearsals. I'm charming. She said hello, but I didn't work with her.
No.
I only worked with Richard Wilson. So I was going to say with Richard, as if I knew him terribly well. I only worked with Richard, but no. Funny enough, I've met him a couple of times since. He's remembered me, so he's been charming. So
fabulous. You did lots of Minders as well.
Yeah. I did masses of Minders. Yeah, I even played for his football team. I did a television series called Pipkins originally. I was the human in the puppet show. And in fact, I fear that when I'm no longer with us, it'll be Jonathan Kydd, remembered for Pipkins. It'll say that on my obituary, just because that was it was a very high profile. It was on for a year. I did about 70 episodes, and it was me talking to puppets, and it was a very classic kind of seminal kids TV program. And
that was great. I loved that.
It was a funny enough, I've been talking about my dad's book, and people want to know about Pipkins. I'm quite happy to talk about it, but it was Gulp 40 years ago, so it was slightly. I did it straight out of university.
How did you get on with that Hartley hair?
Hartley hair. Well,
a nightmare of a look.
Well, for some people, it's a nightmare. For some people, thought he was rather charming. But you could tell the way they thought about him. They kept all the other puppets on hangers with plastic bags around them when they finished the shooting it, and they just shoved him at the bottom of the cupboard. They threw him in because he was, for anybody, he was a kind of hair he had bits of fluff coming off him and spikes, and he looked a bit evil. He was the nasty character of the lot. Each puppet had a character. So you get Topov was the kind of naive little monkey with a little voice, like, you know, little voice.
And the Tortoise.
Little voice like that, you know. And then you'd have and then there was Tortoise, was my favourite. He was on the till. He was the financier. He used to like that. He used to say, "Oh no, somebody's raided the till. I got a case of the spooky dillos," he'd say. So I've remembered that. I can't remember. I remember the people in that as well. They were lovely. And that guy called Nigel Plaskett, fantastic puppeteer, and has carried on being puppeteer. Just does Dark Crystal. Is called in to do every single puppet show that they do. He's really fun. And weirdly, he did all the voices. I didn't do any voices at all.
Did you not? If you had a choice, which of the puppets would you have liked to have voiced?
All of them. No, Hartley was very like that, wasn't he? He was just slightly camp.
Oh yes, he was. He was. I thought he was quite not nasty. But it was just that face and those eyes.
I know. Yeah, it was a bit, but he was attitude. He was supposed to be difficult. But anyway, that was the same time as I then went on to. I was in Minder because my dad played lots of Cockneys because he'd been in prison camp with Cockneys, and he'd made a career out of being quite successful playing, as well as playing Northern Irish characters, Cockneys. So when I came out of university and I'd been in the youth theatre and I'd played, guess what, Cockneys, I'd ended up, an agent wanted me because of my dad, but he wanted me to play Cockneys. And the trouble was I'd go along to the interviews speaking like this, and they'd say, "I'm terribly sorry, we thought you were going to be a Cockney. Your father's a Cockney." And I'd say, "My father isn't a Cockney." I said, "My father speaks like me." And they go, "I'm terribly sorry, your father's a Cockney." And I said, "No, I would know whether my father was a Cockney or not, wouldn't I? Surely you'd say that, you know." And they'd go, "Well, we wanted a Cockney. I'll do the Cockney for you. I've got no problem doing that." So I did the Cockney, and they'd go, "Oh, you're very good, aren't you?" And I go, "Oh, thank you very much." I had a weird attitude towards acting. I thought acting was you played lots of different characters. I didn't realize that acting was actually play one character and try and keep with any advice I give to somebody now would be find a stereotype, be typecast. Do something typecast. Unless you want to do cartoons and voices, then play as many characters as possible because you're anonymous. But I remember a casting director saying to me, "I don't know what you play, darling." what was it, Pam O'Connell, and it was, I don't know what you played. She said you came in for an audition the other day as a Russian. You were very good. She said, a Russian, this is a bit like that. You came in for a Russian. She said, then you did then another thing, you were a Cockney. Then you were a very posh man. Who are you? What do you do? And I thought, well, at the time I didn't get the hint. What she meant was just find something and play it. And I didn't. I was keen on thinking I can play whatever I want. I think I came from a different era that way, because, you know, a weekly rep would have suited me. Masses of theatre would have suited me. But there I was, up for telly. Went up for Minder, got the part, played a villain in Minder, played with the character Gary Olsen, who was a lovely guy, died too young, nice chap. Played with another person who died. Actually, it's very interesting. It never occurred to me this was the case. But chap from Gary Holton, who'd been in Heavy Metal Kids, a band, who, when we did the scene together, had clearly taken drugs, the poor boy, because he said, can we improvise? I'd like to improvise some stuff. Got some stuff, really love to improvise. Great energy in this scene. I'd love to improvise it. I said, I really think it's not a good idea, Gary, because we've got lines to say and it's being filmed. So, yeah, but surely I could say some stuff. No, Gary, no, don't, mate. But it was a couple of biggish parts in them, and then I was in the film playing which was Minder on the Orient Express, playing Cockneys. But meanwhile, then I was in Gentle Touch playing another Cockney. Then I was in Cat's Eyes playing another Cockney.
Yeah, with the wonderful Jill Gascoigne.
Who was lovely, absolutely lovely. Yeah. And I was all the time thinking, and Joss Ackland I think was in that as well. Okay. And what's his name, Thompson, who's in Holby City, not Holby, he's in Casualty.
Yes, I know who you mean. Yeah,
been it ever since. But no, so in a sense, I suppose it was being made for me, but I didn't want to play that particular character because it wasn't me. And the consequence of that was I started not working very much, other than doing my own stuff. And I thought, well, I'll just do my own stuff if I can.
Yes.
So that was when I started creating a kind of comedy persona where you could play as many characters as you possibly could, and used Edinburgh as a kind of focus for it.
Platform, kind of.
So the other thing is that what you don't think about at the time was I don't think it exists anymore. I was doing a mass of corporate work, which really paid the bills. It was very well paid. It's you'd have to tell me. I don't know whether corporate work exists as much anymore. I don't.
It still exists. Yeah.
It still exists, but it was about once a month you do a couple of days on a corporate and be paid some decent money. And yet, as an actor at the time, you went, "Oh, I don't dare mention that. It's corporate work." You know, as if somehow that was anathema. It was shameful because it wasn't. It's like even doing commercials. When I was little, if you did a commercial, it affected your career. In 1986, I was in an AA commercial visually, which the little boy buried his car in the sand, which was, and he said, he came up to me and said, a boy called Adam Searles. He then went on to be in Gavroche in Les Mis. Right. But his line was, my line to him was, Kevin, where exactly did you bury the car? And he said, in the sand. I'm not helping much, am I, Dad? And I say, no, I know a man who can. And then I'd go off to the phone box and speak to the AA, and there's sand being thrown at the phone box. I'd say, yeah, it could well have sand in the engine. Yeah. And that was it. And it was on for 4 years, that commercial. But wow. As a consequence of that, I was told by my then agent, you'll hardly work because you've done a high profile commercial. And how times have changed. You do a high profile commercial now that everybody loves. And
because often you can have something that's, as you say, that was shown for 4 years, but
4 years,
you never know who is sat at home. A casting director, a producer could be sat watching at home, and they might suddenly see somebody on there and think, right, I'll write that down. I like the look of him or her. And, before you know it, you've then got a phone call from your agent saying, oh, that so-and-so saw you in a commercial and they're very interested in meeting you.
But having said that, though, in that era, I think it was more likely to be crossing your name off a list after they'd seen you in a commercial, particularly if something was on for 4 years.
Yeah, but
this is 1986. So
yeah.
No, it gave you meanwhile, I was writing my own stuff and putting it on at Edinburgh, so I didn't really mind it. It allowed me, the money that I made from that allowed me to go and put a show on and lose thousands of pounds at Edinburgh, as you do even when you have a success at Edinburgh. I've done Edinburgh seven times. I gave up in 1997, the last time I did it, and I've never made any money. All I've made is a huge loss at Edinburgh. So you go to Edinburgh with knowing that it's it's going to be slightly disastrous. But if you're in a hit, your career's pushed forward. So
yes, yes. I'm just looking here, Jonathan. I don't know why I've highlighted this. Rubber gloves in Hanover.
Oh yeah, that was just a commercial for rubber gloves. Yeah,
Then it
we had
goes
to.
on to say that they made a huge foam rubber dummy of you and hung it from the ceiling of the airport.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. No, that was SAS Airlines. Yes, I was
Okay.
I was the I was the I was their bloke on the plane, and so they had me flying, and they stuck an enormous dummy of me, and I wish I got a photo. I never got a photo of it. I don't think it looked like me very much, but it was
No,
supposed to be me.
a long shot maybe.
Yeah.
I want to just ask you about two of your videos which I've watched recently. And guys, if you haven't seen them, you've got to go and have a look at them. I think the first one I saw on your website, and that is My Baby's Possibly a Vampire. I mean, I've never laughed so much in all my life.
I've got this comedy band. I've always done comedy. In fact, I've always done comedy singing. I enjoyed writing comedy songs. I in fact ran a club in Fulham called was called the Gunter Arms, and we called it an evening of Gunterama. And it was purely because I couldn't get any gigs with my comedy band because it was the time of stand up. It was about 19. When would it have been? 1988. That's right, 87, 88. And we ended up as a gag in the back of the stage. It said, "Anybody want to be in New Faces?" which of course was the equivalent of X Factor and Britain's Got Talent. And so we applied, and we got to the finals with me singing a very dubious song called "My Baby Tasted Good," and it was very peculiar. And I don't know how we got. I think it's because we were considered alternative, but we won our heat by 20,000 votes, ended up in the finals. And they came up to me and said, if you sing anything that we feel isn't right for the audience, we will stop. It was live. We will stop the performance and throw you off. And on reflection, I should have sung something rude and been thrown off the stage, because we'd have got far more publicity than just doing the rather weak, feeble lyric that I was forced to give them in the end, which was "Baby, when you're with me, I bark like a dog," was the song that we did, which didn't go down very well, and the judges said we were rubbish. But that was Mo. But as a consequence of doing all these, I constantly done comedy bands, not with great success. I did a thing called The Amazing Singing Dentists a few years ago, and I wrote 15 songs about dentistry, and we performed them, and I made an album called Dentura Highway, and I've got about 200 of them at this moment in the back office here that I never managed to sell. Nobody showed any interest in it particularly. So, but it's funny, it's silly, and most of the songs are about. In fact, I think some of them are not non-PC now. This was about 10 years ago. Most of them are about people dying in the dental chair, or being invited back by the dentist to his place. So
Right.
they were very.
Tell us about Let's Be Italian.
Let's Be Italian. Well, that's the song that I've got at the moment. What I'm doing in lockdown is I'm doing some of these songs that we perform live normally, and I've got this band called the Rudy V's, which isn't about dentistry; it's just silly songs. And so we've decided to perform them supposedly live, but you can't do it live because there's a thing called latency, which means everything is just slightly behind all the way through. So if anybody shows you a picture of 71 people supposedly playing live, in actual fact, it's 71 different recordings, because they've all had to be sent the recording to play over, and then they've emailed it to the next person who's done it, because it's not possible to do it as if live. So I've done this on an app called Acapella, and so we're recording these songs, and the current one was called Let's Be Italian. Let's come from Roma. Let's be called. I've forgotten the lyric now. You put me on the spot now. You see. And
there you go. You see.
Let's wear tight trousers. Aged over 50, you've got to wear black. Let's have flared nostrils. Let's be stylish when sporting a Mac. Let's wear shades when it's obviously nighttime. Elegantly and so elegant.
Guys,
they're all up there. They're all up on my website. They're called, the band's called the Rudy V's. But it's what that has done as well is I've written 4 musicals, all supposedly comedic, and none of which have had any success whatsoever. But I've put them on. I've I've paid the actors. I always pay the actors. So I produced it as well. I put them all on at fringe venues, and I'm always bemused about how dreadfully some of the actors have auditioned. Being an actor myself, being an actor myself is a great way, and it's like being a cyclist and driving a car as well. You get insights into things. You get. I think lots of directors haven't been actors, so they just get used to the kind of power thing, and also the sympathy I have as well for some actors. You can see have got it wrong in the audition, and you want them to do it well because you can see they've got talent, and they're just not doing it in the audition, and it's such a shame. And people let themselves down in auditions for a variety of reasons. They're just whether nerves or they haven't quite got the wrong piece. They haven't listened to the brief. They haven't got the right material. Haven't brought it along. They haven't, or they can't read it very well. Once again, and they haven't got the script beforehand. So I mean, I've, as I say, you said at the very beginning, man of many hats. I've got lots of hats that have fallen off and haven't done very well with keeping them on in the wind. But I have a go, and I've still got. In fact, the Lino one that you auditioned for, I'm contemplating with Sarah Berger, the So-and-so Arts Club, of doing a lockdown version of it somehow. I'm filming it.
Right.
So I'm very keen to get to keep working if I can, because the trouble with musicals is that the trouble with lots of stuff I find is you put it out there and people make judgments about it. They go, that's not very good. It's an instant thing. They want it to be instantly good. And as a writer, you're going, I got that bit wrong, or the actor didn't get that bit. The actor didn't do that bit as I wanted them to. And it's the whole process of getting the actor to understand the lines. Well, I mean, I get impatient because I'm so quick, because that's what I do from radio and what I do with voiceovers. You want that response, and yet in some instances it takes actors some time to get to that. And I won't ever say to an actor, do it like this, because that's not fair to an actor. And yet in some instances you really want an actor to really be on the ball to get the gag. You don't want gags disappearing. I write my stuff in the same way as I was talking about earlier, in threes. It's set up and there's a middle bit and then there's the joke. And to have somebody gabble the first line or say the first line upstage so you can't hear it, you go, guys, got to hear this, got to hear the words. And the lack of clarity in stuff is a major problem, I find. And I think the dilemma also with some acting styles now is everybody's very real and there's a bit too much mumbling. You can't hear setups of things. You can't hear the writer. I'm very on the side of writers. The writer is trying to get groups of things to work or images to work, and if you can't hear what's going on, it's a complete disaster. Anyway, what I'm saying is essentially that if we did have theatre, I would keep, and my voiceover's dried up, which will come to a time when it will, I suspect. I would then just go back into theatre and try and I'll be vain enough. I put my own stuff on. But I want to be more hands-on with it. I want to be, and I like working with people who get it. The girl in my band, Jenny Jacobs, and if you've ever come across her, anybody, is brilliantly professional, brilliantly on the ball, and just fulfills everything you want in somebody who's employing them. I pay her. So I've got this weird thing of being not only an actor, I'm also an employer, and I'm employer for little instant stuff, but then long-term stuff as well and bigger stuff. So it's the thing of having a go. I always have a go as a performer. I've been aided by the fact, for example, this ad from 1986. I didn't spend the money on anything other than trying to put on other shows.
Yes,
I was fortunate. I was paying rent in a place I could afford the rent for that, and so I tried to plow it back in. And it's you can't help but then make contacts. You can't help but be. You're seen as an operator. You're seen as somebody involved in the process. This is why I'd always say, if you've got friends, film yourself. Try and think of a play. Don't think of something to film. Stick it up on YouTube. Just get it. Keep doing it. Send it off to casting directors. They might be inundated, but at the same time, one might work or something might be working. Set up a theatre company. I'd always say that, because what I did and the consequences of setting it up, because I say my dad, my not being wanting to play Cockneys, I went off on my own. And my dad didn't leave me any money at all to help me. So I was just, despite being unbelievably successful, he got done by the tax man and then decided to inhabit the bookmaker. So that was the end of that. So It's all, everything has been set up myself to just try and constantly put it into my own work.
Yes, yes.
Because that way it just, the knock on, the connections is just, it just
Well,
works.
you know, Jonathan, this has just been absolutely amazing listening to all of this, and we can all learn something from this, whether it's that we.
I hope so. Sorry, guys, I've been a bit all over the place with it. You know, I'd rather people say I did this, I did that, and that, did that. No. But if you want to talk about voiceovers as well, I'm quite happy to talk about voiceovers.
Yes,
as well.
yes. I just want to take us very quickly, and you're probably going to say to me, "No, you can't remember," but I am going to ask you: do you have any recollection whatsoever of the one line that you had in the film The Iron Maiden?
Funnily enough, bizarrely, having forgotten so many things, I had the line, "Hello, Dad, Mum's after you."
That's it. Yeah.
Now, why have I remembered that? Why? What?
Because it was probably the first thing that you did.
First line I ever had to say.
Yes, and it sticks, doesn't it?
No, in fact, the first line I ever had to say was in a French play at school, which was, "Puis-je en avoir deux, monsieur? J'aime beaucoup les pilules." Was, "Please may I have two of them, sir? I like pills very much." And the doctor came round. Why have I remembered that? I don't know. I don't remember that. Why?
I mean, this is just amazing. Right, well, look, I'm going to now throw this open to the Q&A. So, Jonathan is here, and I'm sure he will answer.
Pick my brain, guys.
So who would like to kick off with the first question? If you can put your emoji hand up so I can see. When you've answered the question, if you can take it down again. Right, I can see Ram is asking, he would like to ask a question. Here's a voice you're going to really love.
I came on the other day. I came on for James Frisby and I heard him.
Oh, you did? Oh, right. You were on. Of course. Yes. Okay. Over to you, Ram.
How you doing, Jonathan?
Wonderful, Ram.
How you doing, man? You good?
Doing well, thank you. Well, I'm speaking too quickly and throwing things out there, and I should have been more. We should have had a plan for it. But anyway,
it was fine.
It was all fine, really. I enjoyed everything you've spoken and your achievements throughout your career. It's just brilliant. Thank you.
He didn't mention half of them. He hasn't mentioned them.
That's just not even half of them, isn't it?
We'll have a part two at some point.
Not even a 16th of the stuff I've done. Not even a 32nd. 64th.
You enjoy your tea.
Sorry, yeah, go on.
Right. So, first of all, do you have any knowledge on audio editing? Like, do you edit your own audios?
Well, no. In fact, I've had to learn how to. I'm.
Well, like currently, not like previously.
I never did it as I should have done it. I think I could have made my own videos. I'm learning Final Cut Pro now.
Not really videos. It's more like,
some audio stuff.
Yeah, because the last time I was here, I was suggested, like, for example, to have a worldwide agent who could help me.
I know exactly what you should do already just by listening to you. You need
to
have
because my questions
point of view, you need to find stuff where there are deep voiced guys and listen to it and transcribe it. Just go onto the telly, look at television, look at films, go onto YouTube, find stuff that's got announcements, that's got American announcements. This week we will be going. It'll be this man has a beard and a hat. That kind of stuff. That's right. What we want. You need to listen to that, transcribe it, make the ad, make the promo like what you've heard as professionally as possible with top with music and sound effects, M&E to go with it, and you'll get an agent. You'll get an agent. They're after deep voiced men like you. I know that for a fact.
Yeah. Because I'm sure I had 3 questions. I had 3 questions regarding editing, but if you don't,
I don't think I'm your man for editing.
Yeah, so
I'm your man.
I've got a fourth.
Come on then.
Given the fact that you've done video games and video games voiceover, so where do you think? Yeah, so where do you think is a good place to start when it comes to video games and animation films in general? In voiceover in general, ambition is really to get into video games and short animation films, not really commercials or
okay,
you know,
well,
that's one thing.
There's a company called Side, SIDE. Side. It's a studio in Great not Great Marlborough Street, the other one. It's next to Oxford Circus, and look them up. They've got a Twitter page, and there's a casting director associated with it. You need to have a reel of characters. You need to create some characters, get some characters, copy them, make your own up, but make them sound. They've got to sound excellent. I know it might be a hard thing to. They've got to sound. It's no good just recording it in your front room on your phone. You know, you've got to make it sound as if you're in an environment. In other words, if you're going to play a video character and you want to get cast, either nick something off the scenario off a game or a film or whatever, and play the character. But you need the sound effects around you to make it sound as if it's you in the scene. It needs to sound as genuine as possible, because remember, you're competing with thousands of other people attempting to get into video games. And I mean, more than ever, thousands and thousands, even the general public are trying to get in, particularly in this lockdown. There was not that I read the Daily Mail, somebody told me it about my agent. There was an article in the Daily Mail the other day encouraging members of the public to become voiceovers.
Oh, bloody
in this lockdown period. Why don't you become a voiceover? Read an audio book, become a video game character. So this is what you're all fighting against now. And also they're trying to pay as little as possible. Now, I know when you start off, you would say, all right, I'll sign my rights away to this game because I just want the gig and I want to be able to put it on my CV and I want to be able to put it on my reel. But £200 for a big character in a major film that will make them 150 million in a major game, and they're getting you for £200, and this is what is happening. This is what, unless you're a star, of course. If we get a star involved, they'll pay a huge amount of that whack to them or something.
Because you cannot, fame does.
Ask me what were the editing questions you wanted to ask me? I just wanted to see if I could answer them, because I know a bit about editing, but not enough. I get other people to do it,
Right. So the first one is basically, how much editing would you suggest for me to do for a voice clip? For example, excessive editing, or basically just really simple, like.
I wouldn't give it a clip. I don't think a clip is. Where would you use?
Like a voice audio completely to send it to, let's say, to whomever. So usually they tell you. Sometimes they tell you not to edit it. Sometimes they tell you to add effects.
Is this for your reel?
No, it's a question if I was to like
audition
do it for
something.
Yeah, or basic. No, not even audition. If I was to be casted, for example, anything, they would usually tell me either you do the effects to that specific audio, or send it to us raw and we would do the editing. So that was my question, basically.
I don't know of any situation where, is this a question? You've got the job. You've got the job already.
So let me explain.
I wouldn't do any editing. I would give it to them and let their engineer sort it.
Yeah, because I live in Dubai. I cannot really go to their own studio, for example, if they're wherever they are in the world, like Britain or America or Canada.
No, but you could, if you needed to have it finished, you could send it off to an engineer. Ask an engineer to do it for you if you needed that.
Yeah,
someone know what the client wants in the first place. If the client, if the client wants it to be finished, I would even say, surely that's your job. That's their job. You're the artiste. You're giving your voice and your performance. I don't think you need to help them in that way. You could help them on your own reel. You could edit it, but
of course they would be paying me for the editing part.
If they pay you for the editing,
that's what I'm saying.
Well, I would edit it so you sound as good as possible.
When it comes as well for, what can you suggest important voice effects or glares I can add to my audio clip.
Well, you could pitch it down. You could pitch them down if you wanted to sound and make it sound as good as possible. Yeah, whatever. It's your reel. Do what you want with it. You play lots of characters. It's really impressive. I mean, I've got my voice, my British voice. I've got British and international voice reels. People keep saying, "Is that you?" Of course it's me. I'm playing all the characters. What's the matter with you? Why would I put somebody else's character on there? Why would I do that? Well, I'm not advertising them. And I know from the world we live in, if immediately, a number of times I've shown pictures to casting directors or agents, and it's got me in the front, but in the background there's somebody. They're going, "Who's that?" And you go, "No, don't. It's me. You want to be? It's me. It's supposed to be about me, not about them." Look, who's that? In the same way, yeah, everything has to be you. Play everything, unless it's something that it's a visual reel or something, or I don't know, if it's a snippet from a cartoon, obviously you can't do. I mean, I was in a Toy Story. I did Toy Story that time, forgot, playing the armorer in it, and yeah, you should have mentioned that one, John. Oi, Toy Story, you missed that one out. Bloody hell, you missed that out. And obviously the girl who plays the dinosaur speaks to me, so I'm not going to cut her out. It's a good little clip, but I'm playing a sort of character, which I have to say is a voice I've done before, and I'll do it again as well. So,
right.
But as I say, it's that business of you've only got a finite number of voices. After a bit, you think that one works. I'll do that one. So you hope you get away with it. I was in Big Ears for Noddy. And Big Ears is a very similar character, I'm afraid, because he's a bit like that in the same way. But I think the Raygon, the armor, was a bit higher, but he can be a bit lower. Yeah, wait, Karen, more questions.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
so
that help you then, Ram?
I beg your pardon.
Is that is that it? Is there anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's.
I hope I've helped Ram, but there'll be some more stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, Sharon.
Hi, Jonathan.
Sharon.
Hiya.
You look very comfortable.
Thank you. I'm not actually. I'm in quite a bit of pain at the minute with a muscle spasm in my shoulder. So yeah, not good. Hence loads of pillows. Things. What I wanted to ask you about was sort of similar to Ram's, but it was more for doing the kids' TV shows and that sort of thing. I've done odd bits of radio commercials and that sort of stuff. But I'd love to get into doing the kids' TV voices. Because like you, I love doing voices. Different characters. I just find it fun.
It's good fun, isn't it?
Yeah. And one of the things that I enjoy is things like reading kids' stories and stuff. So I know that's sort of more audio books.
Advice I could give you if you wanted to try and do kids' books, I would send a reel to Usborne Books. I would send them a reel. I've done quite a few reads for them. I think I'm a bit too posh for them now. I did stuff about 20 years ago for them. But yeah, I would definitely send them a reel. I mean, I advise everybody here, if you've got a decent reel, and you really need to have a decent reel, it needs to sound really professional, with each voice clip having a set somewhere. It's got music to it, or it's got some atmos. It's set, in a shop or whatever. It just gives it lifts it off the page. Remember, you're competing with hundreds of other actors, and now we're competing with members of the sodding public for doing this as well. So you need all the help you can get. If you therefore can make a really, really excellently listenable reel tape now, and I would send, if you're going to send it anywhere, it's not just agents. It's good to get an agent, but you can do this thing, of course, of looking at websites. You have to pay for them. They're a bit of a lottery to me, and I would actually target people. You can look at in the credits, target producers, try and get their email, or just even send them a CD. I know it's a bit ancient, but just look for people in the business who might be able to pass it on to somebody. It might go in the bin. And so I'm not answering your question, Sharon. I would similarly,
it's fine.
I would similarly say, but if I'm answering your question, I'd say send it to Usborne, but also send it to Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon do kids cartoons, kids stuff. Send it to them. Send it to not just to them on their own. Try and find people in the credits to send it to, and see if there's an address. See if you can find a route anywhere, social media, whether they're on Twitter or something. Just find something that allows you to show your work to them, because you might find that nothing happens, or one thing happens, and the one thing opens the door. It's the same with agents. I know for a fact they get inundated. My agent has about, I don't know, they get that number a day of CDs, and they go, I'll say, is anybody going to listen to them? And they'll go, we haven't got enough time today. So they're put in the bin. And the other thing is not only to send a CD, send a file as well. Do a double whammy, send a file and a CD. And then if you can get the balls together, ring. And I know it's difficult because you might be fobbed off, but, and also I'd say, if you're looking for an agent, look for, go into contacts, you know, the book that Spotlight does. Mm-hmm. Look for all the agents and send all the agents a file, an email, and a CD, and ring them. And you have to have armor on. You have to be prepared for them to, you get the assistant, they'll say, we're not taking anybody on, we're not interested. Be prepared for that. And then do it again to the same people in 6 months. It might have that somebody's left, or they suddenly decide they want that voice, or they're looking for that kind of voice. Then that's an opportunity for you. It's the terrible thing of dealing with rejection that we all have to do all the time. But I don't quite know why I ever became an actor, because I'm a sensitive soul, and yet and rejection is still something I don't deal with well. I've got better at it by just going, oh well, I've had some success and I keep working. But nonetheless, it's still, you know, it's that thing of being. I did it recently. Somebody said, I'm really interested in your voice. Can you send me this? Here's the script. Can you do it here? And I sent it off, and it was a kind of thing about plastic in Spain, and how they built the whole of the beaches, because it's the vegetables are all our fruit and vegetables come to a specific area of Spain, and unfortunately the whole of the shoreline is nothing but plastic. And I thought, I've done a good job there. Silence, nothing, nobody interested, and nobody got back to me or anything. So even it's dealing with that and not taking it personally, not giving up. I really need to push this. You've probably got a talent that's just you've missed. It's just you've just lucked out in some way. You know, it's like the story I told you about the guy having a heart attack. Did I tell you that story? Early on, when the job I did in 1981 with the review, a director came and saw me and said, I want you to be in my film. Thought you were fantastic. I'm going to LA next week for a week, but you're going to be in my film. And it was a director called Greg Smith, and he said, I've done the following films and I loved it, and you are the man. We've been looking for somebody. It's you. And he went to LA and had a heart attack on the Sunday and died. And that kind of thing, you just go, no control over that. My career could have been completely different. Might never have been a voiceover. Might never have done that. But you just go with it. Our business is just so. You've just got to ride with it. And I know it's very particularly in this environment. I don't know what to suggest. Well, I'll tell you what to suggest. Hone your show reel. If you can hone your show reel into something that I'm visual. I don't even mean necessarily. I mean your audio reel, but only your visual show reel into something that you think actually this is really pretty good, and then just send it out to every casting director. Find them all. Everything's in contacts. All the casting directors are there. All the voiceover agents are there. When I started out, there were only 5 voiceover agents. I went round. I just had a feeling that I could do it, and I made a cassette. And I was told to piss off by 4 of them. And one of them, the receptionist said, oh, yeah, we'll listen to that. Yeah, all right, Jonathan. Yeah, we'll listen to that. And they didn't. And I kept phoning up. And in the end, I lied. I said, I've got a job. Would you like to handle it? Oh, yeah, we'd like to handle it. Yeah. Tell you what we'll do. We'll listen to your voice tape. And before the job comes up. And I didn't have a job. I was lying. And luckily she listened to it and she said, oh, you're really good, aren't you? I did about lots of different voices in it. And on the Monday, I was doing a commercial. And so it's persistence. And I was actually shitting myself going into each office each time because I was visiting them. And I was told to fuck off by several of them. I was told to, no, we don't accept it. What are you doing? Go away. We've got a list of actors that we use. And everybody is the first thing is a fob off. And I it's that business of keeping going. You've got to just keep on trying to do it and just have faith in your ability. And Sharon, I've diverted off, but I would find as I say, Nickelodeon, kids things, CBeebies. Look at all the people doing the programs on CBeebies. Go onto the website, find the producers, send them tapes. Send tapes. God, I'm in ancient world here. Send them CDs.
I've still got tapes.
Have you got tapes? But
I've got
and books. People are doing books. Send them if they're doing audiobooks, because some of the books, there are CDs with the books with Usborne. So, but yeah, and then you've got the option as well, everybody, of these websites. With which you have to pay for to get on, but I'm sure you can get work from that. They're after British Voices. Some people have success. I would give it a go, in the same way that I send my short films off to film festivals where nothing happens in that instance. But I'm sure some instances it's having a go. It's just and I was trying to stick. I know I get so few views of my stuff on YouTube, and yet Facebook occasionally works. I'm still striving for that viral thing myself. I can't make it work, and yet there are other aspects, as I say, that I've done reasonably well in. But yeah, if there are other ways of just, rather than thinking I need to go a kind of direct way, find something else. Look at a program and see if there's anybody, producer, director, creative, that you think, I'll send them my reel. It might lead to something. They might pass it on to somebody. They might say, "Oh, interesting voice," So, you've done what? Sorry,
you've got to knock on doors, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I do that with my acting stuff, but I never think about doing it for voiceover and stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you ever so much, Sharon.
That's all right. I was going to ask about rates and things, but I'm sure somebody else will want to
ask that. God. Well, the trouble is that
why do they ask us? Why do they not set the rates? That's what annoys me. But
they're supposed to, because 25 years ago there were rates that were set, and Equity were feeble and lost it to the advertisers, and were rolled over. And I'm a member of Equity, and I still would be, but they've got them. Then unions weren't allowed anyway after that, so it all
it just seems strange that voiceover you're asked and acting you're not.
It's because they're trying to take advantage. There's a website. Have you seen that website called Fiverr? Do a voiceover for Fiverr. That's what they want you to do it for now.
But it's because somebody suggested me doing that during lockdown, and I was like, no, because I'm worth more than the Fiverr.
Well, indeed, but the trouble is that it's our voices, and they advertisers in particular want something real. A number of times I'm told, "Oh, we don't want an actor. You're an actor." Yeah, but that's I can read it for you. We want a real person. Okay, well, I'm trying to be real. I think I'm real, but no, we want a real person. We really want a real person. We want a real person because you can pay them a tenner.
Yeah,
that's the other thing. That's what we're dealing with voiceovers, is that everybody's having a go, and nobody knows and everybody wants to do voiceovers. So it's the kind of clout. Oh no, I'm doing a voiceover. That's me. What did you get paid for that? I got paid 25 quid, but that's me. That's me. It's that kind of, you can tell your mates, I'm doing that. I got ripped off, but I don't care.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right, I'm going to move on to Jason, who's waiting patiently there.
Hi, Jonathan.
Hello, Jason.
I'm currently looking for a voiceover agent.
I've
got good feedback on my voice reel, but they've said to mostly unfortunately we can't take you on at the moment. Is it just keep knocking on the doors again?
That's a good sign. Very good sign. But it goes in trends as well. I got told, they're not wanting Cockneys at the moment. We want Northerners, or we want Irish people, because they're supposed to be more, in various years, more trustworthy or whatever. I never understand. It's always an excuse. But yeah, if you've had good feedback, but I would send it everywhere. I'd send it everywhere. And my view is that if you start off even with a Division 3 or conference agent, you get your reel, you then put the stuff you've done on your reel. Because the first stuff is stuff that you've made up. You've got the gig. Then with the agent, then all the stuff that you try and get a copy of what you've done and use that as your reel. So you can then officially say, that's me doing that ad. That's me doing that. And it depends what your reel is, it depends what you can do. The advice is, we were discussing this, me and John, the other day. If you're good at voices, do a cartoon reel, as well as doing an ad reel. There are all so many different voices you can do. You can do corporate reads. You know, I've got a corporate read, which is very serious. I do very serious corporate reads. So which I also has been used BBC. I do BBC News Network stuff, the BBC News, which is informed Panorama. I do Panorama promos. Panorama, why Brexit this Thursday, 9 o'clock. That's serious stuff. That's one read. But you can do another read. You can do a much jollier read involved with that. You can't go, why Brexit? Why did we choose Brexit? You can't do it in a kind of, you know, up voice. It wouldn't work. But there are different styles. If your one style happens to be one particular read, go for it. Go with that style. But if you can do cartoon voices, show it. But, you know, not overtly long. If you can do characters, show it. If you do different reads, there are different reads in commercials. If you just have to listen to what happens in all the ads, I do lots of documentaries. Documentaries have to be very concentrated, consistent, sticking things in between where the cues are and not losing energy. Don't lose energy at the end of the line. It's a very old acting thing. The number of people nowadays who do that, and they do this, do them, and they do that. That's not interesting. It's not what is required by the employer. But there's documentaries, corporates, cartoons, commercials, and promos. Promos you can actually get away with being much bigger. I do lots of film stuff as well. I do film 4, and that's a voice. It's a silly voice. I admit it. It's Thursday, 5 o'clock. The Hurt, film 4. It's that voice. It's not my voice. It's what's required for the job. So you can stick that on your reel if you're good at that. If you're Jason, what stuff is on your reel? Is it just
my reel is more sort of adverts.
Adverts, yeah, perfect, yeah. Well, you could do then.
I've got it done at Soho Voice.
Yeah, good place. Yeah. You've frozen.
With another question, Agent Dan Good Voices.
Yeah.
They really enjoyed my reel, but they had a duplicate voice on their books already.
That's the other problem. Yes, but
once
again, I would say.
Emailing again.
Sorry, say again. What was that word?
Is it worth emailing them again?
I would give it a few months. I would actually try. You've frozen, Jason. Can you hear me? Okay, you're back. You're back. I would try another agent. I'd try other agents. But you've gone to a decent place to have it done. You get professional stuff done there. I would go to, as I say, I'd look down all the list of agents and send them the reel in the way that I've said. Send them a file, and they prefer actors. Obviously, the agents prefer actors. They want to know what you've done, or just a little CV about yourself. They like that. So, but you know, you've got this far. So, but yeah, I'd wait. I'd wait. I mean, there's an awful thing to say. They might be fobbing you off. They might say that's an easy way of getting rid of people. But at the same time, it sounds to me as if they have got somebody like that, because that's normally what they will fill. They will fill that kind of. They're at the moment apparently quite well-spoken actors. Doesn't matter what their CV is like, aren't getting any work. So they're not taking. My agent aren't taking any on. So, and also they're noticing they're being more celebs are being used. Because the guy doing all the coronavirus stuff at the moment on the radio is and telly's Mark Strong, you know, the actor, and he's with my agent, and the agent said to me they're deliberately looking for slightly well-known voices or BAME voices, actually. That is very much the trend at the moment as well, which you know, fair enough. But I would send it off to other agents, see what reaction you get. You don't need to join them, obviously, but if somebody's sniffed, that's a very good sign. So I'd say look in the list. There are masses of agents, I say, in contacts. Just send it each one. Mail them a version in a file, and you could almost say I've had a very good response from other agents for this. I'm not sure that's probably not a good idea. I don't know. No, that's really positive. Yeah, it's great. But it is frequently the truth. It's one specific well-known actor doing that. It would be. I know that my agent's got one for each, not two for each. One for each specific thing that they're after. So, I mean,
So
I'm fortunate. I do.
You need more than, would you say, Jonathan, then when you're actually having a reel done, you need more than one file? So if, say, for example, audio.
Well, we've talked about this. You were saying, yeah, if you want to do audio books, I would do an audio 5-minute read.
Yes.
Yeah, and have that. Yeah, but it's within the file itself. You can have just, separate, I'm being a bit technologically inept, have your blue file and have about 4 other files on the back of it,
Yeah, what I mean is everything is on one file. So when you're applying to a voiceover agent.
Yeah, but as long as it's an envelope that they can press and then all of them come down. Yeah,
okay,
there are 4 of them. Yes.
Okay, look, I'm going to have to move on, Jason. Thanks very much for your questions.
Yes, yeah, thanks, Jonathan.
No, you're a pleasure. And I'm going to move on to Tim. Hi, Tim.
Tim.
You'd like to unmute yourself, please? Yeah, bottom left, if you unmute yourself, and then we can hear you.
There we go. How's that? It's all been acting. It's been acting squirrely on me all day. How are you? How are you, Jonathan?
Very good, thank you, Tim. How are you?
This is your trustworthy Irish accent here. You see.
Hey, perfect. Whereabouts are you?
I'm in London, but I'm from Dublin.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
I worked at another name I've forgotten. I wrote a musical and put it on at the Lane. What was it? The Lane Theatre. Oh God.
Diggs Lane.
No. Oh, never mind. Anyway, but I stayed there for 3 weeks. I have never known so much hospitality in my life as in Dublin. The constant complete strangers who you meet and say, come on, come back.
Absolutely.
Was
absolutely. It's a good time.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. It's a good spot. It really is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But quickly, I won't keep you too long. But regarding getting an agent, I have an acting agent, but they don't handle voices. So
you can go with anybody. You can go with anybody. They've got no hold over you. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, exactly. And they're fine. And they're suggesting I do so. So it's finding a specific agent. Now, there's also, because even like you were saying with the Daily Mail, there's a lot of people approaching, whether it be gaming companies or casting directors or whatnot individually. Would you focus initially on getting an agent or just blasting out to all these CDs and all the gamers and so on? Or would you focus on getting an agent first?
I do both.
Both, okay.
I think if you get an agent, you could then, they might tell you not to do that because they say they'll do it.
Exactly.
But
as in which are you more likely to have success at the other end with if you have an agent behind you, or at this stage does it really matter?
The dilemma that my agent has at the moment is that, particularly with games, is that the games people aren't offering the actors enough money.
Right.
So my involvement in games, they're only dealing with game companies who will pay proper money.
Okay.
So that's excluded large numbers of possible games that I could be involved in. And
true, but be underpaid for them though.
Yeah, what's been happening as well is that they've been very canny, some people running studios, which is going to drama schools and saying to the third-year students, would you like to be in my game? I'm paying you £200 or less, £150. And of course the drama student goes, of course. But this is, and in fact, what's happened now, Kydd, who I mentioned, have just, I think they're setting up a whole series of different tiers of people. I would actually, I think the thing I think I would get an agent first.
That's what,
have this kind of discussion with them.
Yeah.
Because they may have an entree to a gaming setup that my agent doesn't. Gotcha. I'm with an agency called Another Tongue, who are pretty.
Yes, good. I know them.
Yeah, but, absolutely. But you've shifted over there, Tim. Hello. But yeah, I don't know whether it's making any difference to me looking there at you, but I'm looking straight at you here. But you're down in the side. But yeah, I would try and get an agent for. I mean, it's a question of have you sent your reel to anybody?
Now I did a voice reel there about it's a couple of years back, and it's good, but I mean, it's got your standards. It's got 2, I think, advertising ones. It's got a documentary narrative example on it.
Yep.
And they sound good, but I still don't think they do me full justice now. I think I've developed them since, so I want to do a new one.
Absolutely, of course, absolutely.
And I've done a few TV and radio ads as well, but they're all in my normal voice, my natural voice. So the other thing I was going to ask then was, would you just do that? Or, I mean, again, you want a broad range of what you can do, but where do you draw the line? Because you can do your gaming, like you say, you can do your natural voice, you can do various different accents, but you don't want to bombard them with, like, I mean, a dozen different audio files.
I don't know.
Would you?
I think it also depends on how your acting CV is doing. You know, if your acting CV is you've been in a few films or something or whatever, they're going to be more interested in you as somebody they can sell, because they can hook your performances to the voice. They can say, "Oh, we've got Tim McDonnell," you know, and so you go, "Oh, have you? Right, good," and he's been in it. Oh, good. So that it's kind of salesman's thing. I mean, when I first did the first voice agent I got, I did the AA ad, and they sold me to people. He's the man in the AA ad.
Right.
Listen to his tape, and they'd then go, "Oh, it's," and then the tape, like, fortunately, was decent, so I got jobs on the back of it.
Okay.
So I just think if you give them commercial reads, straight reads, a documentary read sounds great to me in your voice, but then reveal the extent that you can do. The dilemma, they might say, is what they were saying to Jason. We've got an Irish voice.
Exactly.
They might say that, but once again, it depends on what agents you go for. And I've got no, as I say, I don't think you should have any qualms. I mean, it depends on obviously, if there's no going for any agent, if you get work via that agent, then get a reel together of the work you've done. You say you've got some work you've done already. I would include that in the reel. It's important. If you can get hold of a copy somehow, ask them for it. Sure. Then moving on, you know, we're in a business of then try the Division 2 agent, or try the Premier League agent. You know, they might be, and once again, it's so much down to luck. It may be that their Irish voice has gone, or they can, or it might be that another voice you've done, if your games reel is excellent, they might go, we can sell you with that, with the agent stuff. But I would, if you can do, you know, big characters, I would, I'd make a reel for that. I don't think it matters if you get the one reel, the one file, and there are 5 things coming off it: a book read, ads, games. You know, and I would always suggest to people, you can do cartoon voices. You can make your own ad for a cartoon voice. I always say this. You could say, you can do a 40-second, you know, next week on Nickelodeon, and then do Fred the cow. Hi there, I'm gonna go. Is crossing the road. Is crossing the road. I'm crossing the road. What's that? Help! And it's Max the Mini. Max the Mini, another character comes up. He's in it as well. You know, I mean, I'm being rubbish, but you know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
You write your own with the voices you can do around it, saying, you know, next week on Nickelodeon, we've got all these characters. And it's you doing a 30-second ad or a 20-second ad, just doing voice after voice after voice. And they're going to go, fucking hell, that's good.
Yes.
But somebody with the game stuff, I would say, as I was explaining earlier to Ram, I think you need to have characters who are it needs to sound like a battle. You know, if it's a battle. If you need to go to a studio that's got effects that could make it work. So it sounds as if you're in it, but nick it from whatever, nick the ideas from anything. And I mean, my very first reel was I just transcribed all the ads and just did them, you know. But the thing to remember is that your reel, it isn't an access to the agent. That's the reel they're going to be using.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's really unlikely that they're going to go, yeah, that's great. Come into a studio. We'll
record all new stuff. Yes, of course. I know what you mean. So you need to be on that quality.
They don't want the time. They do it. My voice agent's got a studio there, and they do it with some people occasionally. They go, we like that, but we don't think that was quite good enough. But so they might do the odd thing. But once you're in there, it's great. But the chances are the agent will want the reel that you've given them to be the one that they can send out.
Yeah, make it easy for them, basically. Make it easy for them. Yeah,
they're lazy.
Exactly. I didn't want to say that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I'd use good stuff.
Excellent, thanks, Jonathan. Yeah.
By the way, guys, if anybody, I'm accessible. If anybody wants to talk, send me an email about anything. You can just send it to me afterwards. I'm really happy to discuss it.
Very kind of you.
Great stuff. Thanks, Jonathan.
And I was going to say, can I just say one of my pet hates is really be very wary of anybody trying to tell you how to do voiceovers. Any of these people saying, 600 quid, come to my symposium, come to this. They are the people making the money out of voiceovers at the moment. It's such a scam.
Can I just ask a question to you, Jonathan, real quick?
Yeah.
In your opinion,
sorry to interrupt you. We're going to have to wrap this in about 5 minutes. Okay. Well, go ahead, Ram.
Get your questions in quickly, right. And I'll be very quick.
Yeah, really quick. Yeah, and you just said that if somebody tells you to do this for 600 quid, what could be done to change this very aspect that we're facing right now? Like,
I don't know how you'll do it. It's the biggest. Apparently, I was told this. The how to do voiceovers market is the biggest growing market on the internet, and it is the worst. The results of doing all of this how to leads nowhere. It rarely leads anywhere. I went to before lockdown. I know lots of people at stallholders at Stamford Bridge with the football, and one of them said to me, he said, "Jonathan, my wife's just done a course," and I said, "Okay, voiceover course," and I said, "How much it cost?" 250 quid, and I said, she said, "Would you listen to her reel?" I said, "Okay, I listened to the reel." She's a woman of 45. Nice woman. She's got a bit of voice like that, doing stuff like that. I said, well, he said, what can you suggest? I said, well, she's got the real, she's not an actor. It sounds okay. She needs to, the same advice I've given you, write to people, do what you can. But there's no out for it. At least you're actors. At least you've experienced, you've got that on your CV. You can say, I've done this and this. They've got nothing.
That's my point.
It doesn't lead anywhere. There's one bloke who says, make sure you wear comfortable trousers. Make sure you speak over the top of the mic to stop plosives, to stop sibilants. I mean, it's just madness. I mean, bollocks. It's people making money out of. I saw one the other day where a guy said, this American guy said, I'm going to tell you now the real interesting thing about voice placement. Voice placement. So he said, I'm going to go. He said, if you listen to me. He said, I've got this voice here. If I go slightly higher, I'm there. If I go further up there, I'm there. If I go down there, I'm there. That's called voice placement. I thought, fucking voice placement. That's just you're going up and down the octave with a voice. What? And you're charging for that. Yeah. He's charging people. And it's called, because you give it an authentic label, placement. And I don't get this, how to do video games. Forgive me. If you're an actor, you come up with a voice, you do the voice. You don't how to do video games. What does that mean? You're given the direction and you respond accordingly. Your character, the character comes in and says, what are you doing to me? Get away, get away. You don't have to be taught how to do that. Surely it's in the lines and in your character. How to do that?
That's the acting part.
And you act it. It's not, and yet people are spending huge amounts of money on these things, and they are the people making the money out of this. So be very wary. If you want to make a reel, fair enough, go to one of these studios, as in Soho Studios, who've got a very good reputation for making reels. But if somebody says to you, I can help you with your voice and how to do video games, they might put you in a video game environment, fair enough, something you haven't been in. But trust me, that's just about acting. You're just in an environment where you've got a script, you've got characters, you play the character. There's no big deal. You don't have to go near they'll say, move away from the microphone a bit, you're popping, or you've gone a bit too bright, it's a bit too red. There's no, there's no mystery about it. It's just acting. Mm-hmm. So, so be very wary about these classes.
True.
I'm going to move on very quickly now.
Sorry.
It's quite all right, Jonathan. On to Hannah and then on to Tyrone. Okay, so Hannah.
Sorry, I hope I can give you due justice here.
Hi, Jonathan.
Hannah.
I have a question about whether being an actor is, well, I know it's more physically demanding, but voiceovers, are they still physically demanding? Because I really want to be an actor, but I've never considered doing voiceovers or anything like that, and I do have a physical disability. So what worries me is if I'm on stage or anything and I suddenly just have to stop because I'm unable to do it. Is voiceover work easier in that respect, that they're not asking you to do it?
No, it depends what they want to ask you to do. I mean, in my instance, if they're asking me to use a broadsword, I still really think you could use a broadsword if necessary. You know, if you were even from with your disability. No, I don't think. It's obviously speaking into a microphone. You're creating the environment. So, yeah, I think it would be. Once again, it depends what you're doing. If it's a game, the chances are it'll be quite physical, because it's acting as if it's out. They'll be animating what your performance is. But if it's a commercial, no, that's just a piece of information. If it's a character, depends how physical you want to make it. You know, when I was playing Peeves the Ghost, he was leaping about like an idiot, but I'm jumping into the air. But all I'm doing is physically giving him a representation of that. So I'm going, whoa, whoa, oh, hey, whoa. You know, it's that. It's something you can do from your chair. In fact, I'm one of the laziest voiceovers in the world. Whenever he says to me, would you like to stand up? I go, no, I'd rather sit down and do it. So, but yeah, no, I wouldn't think so. I think these are very open times for anybody with a disability. I think I would go for it. I'd go for it. But also, from a voiceover point of view, once again, it's your reel. It's what you feel you're capable of doing as well. You know, if it's straight reads, commercials, documentaries, there are so many things you can do as a voiceover. Not about doing one voice. Audiobooks, you know, if you've got a talent for that and creating characters of that, it's very hard work. Audiobooks, not very well paid, but very, very fulfilling to be able to do it. But you have to create different characters. You've got to be very prepared, reading the book, working out where the characters are. And remembering the voices you've given for them. It's terrible when you get to page 275 and you haven't made notes and you think, oh God, what was that for? I've actually written a book about being a fiction about being a voiceover, and I've done it. I've done the audio book of it already before I've had it published, and I've listened back to it, and I've got to page 300 and got one of the voices completely wrong, so I've got to edit it in. So just because I'd forgotten what it was. Anyway, keep anybody else?
Yeah, over to Tyrone, please. Thank you, Hannah. Hi, Tyrone.
Hi, Jonathan. How are you?
Where are you? Hannah. Oh, Tyrone. Good stuff.
Hi, how are you?
I'm coping, I think. I hope I'm doing all right.
I was just going to ask you if you knew of any companies, voice reel companies that I could go with.
What, to make a reel?
Yeah, there's so many, you see.
Well, unfortunately, the ones I would suggest are pretty expensive. Okay. There's one at Jungle, but once again, I don't know whether they're doing this remotely. I'd be really intrigued as to whether I'm pretty sure they will be doing it remotely, because they can, as long as you've got a decentish mic, you can speak into the microphone you're in, and they use something called Source Connect, which you just have to upload for free, and then you get decent quality stuff the other end. It's a question of what you want to do. I think I would ring them up. How much money, you know, will you think you're spending? They spend, it's about 400 quid, lots of decent reels. That's the trouble. But I would go for it. My big thing would be, if you can afford 400 quid, I would go for it. The better the reel, the possible. And I'd say, Tyrone, your moment is now, Tyrone. I would really go for it. They really are after your kind of voice. Absolutely. They are screaming for it at the moment.
Okay.
Really. If you can get one done as soon as possible, you'll get an agent. You really will.
I don't mind how much I've got to spend. I'll do it.
All right. Well, I would, at a place called Jungle. I would ring them up. Jungle Studios. I'd ring them up. And also, what's the full title, Jason, of Soho? Soho House Studios, is it? Soho House Studios? Soho Studios.
Yeah, Soho Voices.
Soho, pretty good. They've got
Soho Voices, yeah.
And
I would ask Dean Street.
Do it remotely. I should ring them up and say I should get 10%, shouldn't I? Really?
I'll mention you. I'll make sure I mention you.
No, what's your Jungle? No, they won't know who I am. I used to work there all the time, but it goes in, as with everything, goes in. I'm doing massive promos at the moment. I'm not doing many commercials, and I used to do L'Oreal, the L'Oreal Because You're Worth It ads. I was Boswellox and Revitalift. all of those kind of stuff. And in fact, the Boswellux as a name was this French woman said, "Is it Boswellux or Boswellux?" And I thought, it sounds like bollocks, doesn't it? I'll say it's Boswellux. and they ended up making the ad calling it Boswellux. But I did that for 10 years. We did it at Jungle all the time. But they've got a very good reel section there that they make. But I'll give you all my email. If you have a problem, I can send you some other people as well.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Guys that you want, I'm happy to give.
Right,
outside this.
About to run out of time, I'm afraid.
I'm just getting going.
I know. Well, look, all I can say is
Claire's fallen asleep there. Look,
she has. Are you going to give her one of your voices and wake her up, Jonathan?
Claire! Claire! Fuck's sake!
Right, look, should be the last one on Last Man Standing.
But I remember the other day she was talking about saying she was a voiceover. Why is she not interested? I have to say, can I be frank, everybody? If I remember rightly, she speaks terribly like that, doesn't she, Claire? From where she was on before. Claire, hello, there you are. Oh, she's turned me off. No, she's there. Claire, are you, hello, you speak like that, don't you, darling? Don't you? Oh, anyway.
She's half asleep. Well, look, I'm going to just now close this. I want you to remain behind, but for the benefit of those that are going to be watching the replay of this, we are going to finish this part of the evening's event. But if you'd all just join me in giving Jonathan a big round of applause, and thank you so much for all of your time. Seriously, thank you very much.
Hey, bravo!
Marvellous, bloody marvellous.
So,
well done.
Well done.
Well done.
Will, thank you very much.